Hi, I'm Diana, and I'm going to talk about two versions of a heavenly hash cake. Why am I thinking about heavenly hash cake? Well, it came about like this. My dad recently, when I was going to visit him around Thanksgiving, he said, "Oh, and if you made a heavenly hash cake, can you bring a piece of that?" Well, I hadn't made a heavenly hash cake. I hadn't made it for years. So back up, what the heck is heavenly hash? I just assumed everybody knew what that was, and then somebody asked me. Never assume people know what you're talking about. That's a note to myself. Heavenly hash is a cake. Well, heavenly hash is chocolate, marshmallows, and pecans. So like Rocky Road, but instead of peanuts, pecans. And heavenly hash cake is the cake that my family had at all the gatherings at my maternal grandmother's house from when I was a kid until she died when I was in my early 30s. And for a while after my grandmother died, we would meet at my mother's house instead. And for a while I made it. And then I noticed that it wasn't getting eaten. And when I said something, my older daughter said, "Well, that's because we don't like it." And we was my daughters and then my nieces and nephews, and they preferred other desserts. I just quit making it. My younger daughter recently told me it's because she doesn't like marshmallows and she didn't like pecans. She didn't like any nuts in desserts. So that makes sense. So when my dad asked me for a slice, he didn't even ask me. He just said, "If you're going to make it, could you bring me a slice?" I knew I was going to make it for him because it brought back such warm memories of being a kid, and that excitement we would have when we'd see a heavenly hash cake. My mom didn't make it at home. The only time we got it was at family gatherings. So what happened was when I made it, when I took out the recipe book, I noticed how sparse the recipe is with instructions, and I made two versions because I wanted to see if I could make it so that my daughters would like it, and then compared that one to the one that I remembered. It's another day, and I am going to make heavenly hash cake according to the recipe and see if it's better or if they are just two different things. That's where I'm leaning right now. I'm thinking they're just two different things. Okay, hi. This is just about the cookbook. That is me reminding myself because I keep going off on tangents. The recipe comes from Talk About Good. I'm going to show you the spine because I have mine and my mother's, and they're both falling apart. You can see. Talk About Good. It's put out by the Junior League of Lafayette. It's volume 1, the green and yellow one. First published in 1967, copyrighted in 1969. For all I know, it was published every year since. I have the dates of all these publications, editions, but it stops when I got the cookbook, which was in the late 80s. Put out by the Junior League, by recipes submitted by Junior League members and friends of Junior League members. And so these are recipes written in the late 60s. Yeah, they may have been passed down from before that, but written in the late 60s. The point is that these recipes are written by home cooks for home cooks, and sometimes there are questions that need to be answered by the person cooking it. Like, do I cream this or do I melt the butter? I think that's all I wanted to talk about with the books. That's it. I have no footage of me making the second cake. So really short rundown to try to alter the heavenly, not to try, I altered it, and I altered it to appeal to my children. I made it differently. I made the cake with a creaming method, so that I mixed the cake differently than I did. I made my own marshmallows, and I added a homemade raspberry jam. So all those things to try to make it more enjoyable to my kids. And I didn't film that. Okay, hi, it's just me, so I have to reach and stuff. So here I am looking at the recipe. Ignore the not perfect set known as my kitchen. Ignore that part. Okay, so here I am. I got my small pan. This is a 7 by 11. That's exactly what I need. So usually we made it bigger. The we who made the cake that I know of were myself, my grandmother, and my Uncle Frank. I have a feeling, because I have a feeling everybody doubled it, and or something, because we usually have a bigger one. Mix the above ingredients for cake and pour, oh, it does say greased and floured, into a greased and floured pan. I was like, they don't even say the greased and floured pan. It does. Okay, my fault. I didn't read it well enough. So I'm going to grease the pan and then mix it. I'm going to go ahead and read the whole recipe to you. So there's a list of ingredients for the cake. Actually, it didn't even say cake. It's just a list of ingredients, and then it says icing and a list of ingredients. So my first one was mix the above ingredients for cake and pour into a greased flour and floured pan. 2 eggs, a stick of butter, sugar, a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa, self-rising flour, pecans, vanilla. What do I do with a stick of butter? Am I supposed to melt it? Do I cream it? Do I soften it? A stick of butter. I am thinking what I used to do is melt it. Like it just says mix. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and melt the butter. Yep. And it's just me, that's why I have to keep leaning over. And I keep looking at myself, because this is not what I do for a living. It's just for fun. Except when I used to make Zoom videos for my students. That was fun too. Holy cannoli, I forgot I had to slice marshmallows. I'm using scissors. It's much easier. And the marshmallows are sticky. Why am I making such a big deal about a cake? Especially if my kids don't like it, we just move on. And I can every now and then make one for my dad. And this is what it comes down to, I think, for me. It's like, for me, it's leaving my childhood behind and these traditions. I know it's not a deep-seated cultural tradition. It's a family tradition, but it's still meaningful to me. And I don't know, when my dad asked for the Heavenly Hash cake, it kind of brought it up. And, you know, both of my grandmothers are gone, and my mother has dementia. So I'm losing a whole nother generation, and it's sad. And I'm trying not to think of the sadness. I'm like getting all like, oh, we were talking about cake and now I'm sad. Yeah, I don't know what to say from that. Okay, I'm gonna keep on with the cake part. That part didn't make me sad, mostly. Okay, all right, hi again. I wonder if I'm gonna say that every time. So the Heavenly Hash is out of the oven, and the icing is on. There was no instructions that said wait till it is cool to put on the icing, so I went ahead and put on the icing. I'm just gonna hold up the cake instead of moving the camera. It just seems easier to me. If the whole thing falls out, we'll all laugh. This is kind of how I remember that. I don't remember the icing dipping down so much into those spaces, but you know, I was a kid. Also, I did put it on pretty much right after, so it was very warm. My younger daughter and myself agreed that we both like the original version better. And that when I souped it up, it became too sweet. That makes me so happy, because I had kind of put it to rest, and the idea that I can make this cake that I had in that wasn't just about my childhood, or isn't just a memory from my childhood. It is, or signifies, or tastes like, or brings up memories of family gatherings, of extended family gatherings. And that makes me so happy.